The following feature has been rated R by the Motion Picture Association of America.
We have a little entertainment planned for you today. Then just pretend that what you see is real.
I can feel death in this room. A presence. You have killed, and you will kill again.
The murderer is a schizophrenic paranoid. Anyone who kills with such frenzy surely does it in a state of temporary madness. And when he kills, he must recreate these specific conditions.
Welcome to our academy. I'm Miss Tanner, one of the instructors.
At night and can't be stopped. They're the walking dead who are never buried, and they're coming your way now in Horror of the Zombies. They live on flesh and subsist on blood. They're hundreds of years old and look decayed. It's all new chills and a shocking and ghastly nightmare of gruesome terror.
Now, put her into the mind probe.
No! No!
Hold it right there!
L.
Release her or I'll blast your queen. I mean it. Come on now. Don't you people move or you're dead. You mean to treble and I'm gonna clean out your sinuses real good, lady. Now you stand there. Okay, close the door. Don't you follow us now.
Stop them! Stop them! Guardian, take my revenge. Kill them.
Look!
Whoa! Run for your life! There! That narrow pass is in the rocks. Come on, Stella! Run!
Greetings, fiends, and welcome to the Horror Mike Show on this fine and fiendish Friday evening. I'm your host, Horror Mike. Welcome to the show. And you may have guessed it, tonight is the 1970s finale, folks. after I don't know, 5-6 weeks of 1970s madness. We're kind of coming to an end, at least for now. Okay. We will probably circle back. We'll circle back around, as that dippy redhead used to say, to the 70s again. But next week, we plummet further back into the mighty 1960s, where it really began in the 60s, kind of leading into the 70s explosion. There's a ton of great films from the 60s. You guys know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. So why are we kidding ourselves? Get ready for the 1960s next week. But tonight, it's all 70s, folks. And it's more than just movies. Yeah, we got some insanely good movies and some insanely bad movies tonight. But I've also got stuff that shows you. Oh, I got stuff that shows y'all, folks. You're going to dig it too. I think you're going to dig the hell out of this tonight, because there is, you got to have some physical 70s stuff, right? That's what the whole deal is. You may have noticed my shirt, the spirits of 76. Let's see if I can get a little closer. There you go. You may notice it's Frankenstein, Dracula, and Wolfie. The spirits of 76. Patriotic and horrifying at the same time. That is the thing I'm totally digging about it. Yeah. I just did that when I bought the Star Trek Keep on Trekking shirt. I bought this at the same time because when I bought the t-shirts, I got a 3-pack. Of course, the 3-pack, you got to use the last shirt, for Christ's sake. So I bought this cheap off of eBay. It is from 1976, folks. It is from the bicentennial. Yes, they did a horror bicentennial, which is just fucking cool as hell. So, all right, folks, it is the 70s. The first thing you saw, though, tonight was a trailer for my film, Horror Anthology Movie Volume 1. And I'm going to drop that link in the chat. There you go, folks. If you're interested in renting my film, it's only $2. $2 on Amazon. And you will find it on the front page of horroranthologymovies.com. Indeed. So basically, folks, what we've got tonight are we're definitely going to go to Tubi. There's no doubt about that, but we are going to take a little brief tour over to Canopy because you just gotta check this out. This is the glory of Canopy, folks. This is the thing I cannot impress upon you enough. Canopy has got some great stuff. Wait until you see the lineup. It's a short lineup, but it's a hell of a lineup over on Canopy. So we're going to do that first, then we're going to go over to Tubi. And as you may have seen by the variety of trailers there's a couple of Argento films in there, Deep Red or Profondo Rosso. We have Suspiria, of course. Now, that was from the 4K remaster, which was recently released. I don't know, a few years ago. And, of course, such classics as Hatchet for a Honeymoon and 3 on a Meat Hook, folks. So get ready for some wild, varying films varying in quality. That's what I'm going to say to you right now. We're going. It's going to be fluctuating a bit, but a lot of fun. And of course, the last thing I showed was Star Crash. Stella Star Crash, man. Carolyn Monroe, one of the hotties from the 70s and 80s. Just unbelievable, that sequence. Notice it wasn't a trailer. It was the scene from Star Crash, which is one of the best scenes because Carolyn Monroe as Stella Star Crash is being harassed by the space Amazonians. I mean, come on, folks. That's one of the great scenes in that film. There's no doubt about that. Just amazing. Absolutely stunning. So we'll be taking a closer look at Stella Star Crash tonight, guaranteed. Okay, that is an absolute must. But before we continue, let's head on over to the chat and say hi, shall we? See what the hell's going on in the chat on this fine and fiendish Friday evening. Wayne Butler is here. Hello, Wayne. Good to see you. Eric Boyd is here. Hello, Eric. Great to see you. Oh, we got a good one. It's pretty insane tonight, Wayne. Ain't no doubt about that. Thomas Fairfall is here. Hello, Thomas. Great to see you. Radama says, it looks like I'll be using my barf bag today. Woo! Dave James is here. Hello, Dave James. Fantastic to see you, sir. I'll watch anything with Carolyn Monroe in it, indeed. Werewolf by Lunchtime is here from the future. Hello, Werewolf. Sweet. Yeah, everybody seems to be sweet on Carolyn Monroe. There's no doubt about that, and with good reason. Creepy dolls, creepy dolls. Black Christmas. What a great film. One of the classics. Of course, that's Bob Clark, who people just don't realize. They don't put all of his films together. Of course, Bob Clark did Black Christmas. He also did A Christmas Story, that pleasant tale starring Darren McGavin. The same Bob Clark. He also, of course, did Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. So Bob Clark is quite, well, he's great. What can be said? Bob Clark is freaking great. Eric loving the shirt. Thank you, Eric. Once again, that is the URL, folks. If you want to head on over and rent my film, horroranthologymovie.com. Horroranthologymovies.com to rent Horror Anthology Movie Volume 1. That shirt is absolutely boss, Mike. Thank you, Thomas. I appreciate it. I love it. I dig the hell out of it. Let's see how long it lasts, folks. Now, I got to say that, I did the iron-on. You guys may have seen the video. It was part of the little teaser thing I did for this show last week. And it's on. It worked. Considering it's 50 years old, folks, the actual iron-on transfer, I kind of maybe overdid it a little bit just to make sure. And, it's seems to be on there. Who knows with these iron-ons, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. Steve Harrison is here. Hello, Steve. I Am One of Us is with us. Hello, I Am One of Us. Profondo Rosso is freaking awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic. We're going to take a closer look at that, along with some other incredible Argento films. Radamus. Steve Harrison is here. He says, surfing Tubi's TV section, I found 2 seasons of Hitchcock, and the episode I opened had Darren McGavin. That's what we're talking about. Apex is here with us tonight. Hello, Apex. Jacob Boranowski is here. Hello, Jacob. Kevin Hellon is here. Hello, Kevin. Great to see you, my good man. All right, folks. It's almost too much to take, but we'll try. We will try. Now, the 70s. It was a crazy era, and, well, there were a few things that were, besides movies, for me, a lot of stuff was, I was a kid. And, of course, late 70s, I was a teenager. So teenage years, man, it was all about drive-ins, skateboarding. Skateboarding was freaking huge. Now, you know, in the 60s, skateboards were of a different animal. You had your boards and typically clay wheels, right? Well, when technology just kind of developed quickly, kind of going from the late 60s into the early 70s, suddenly it was urethane wheels, right? And really great trucks that the wheels, you fit the wheels on for the boards, and skateboarding just took off. I mean, it was freaking huge in the 1970s. I got heavily into it. I had a few boards. I had one of those classic 1970s banana boards. Does anybody remember banana? Simply yellow, you know, I don't know, yay big. Classic. Just, you know, plastic, of course. And it was just a lot of fun. There's no doubt about that. But of course, there was really, for me, mostly it was musically, it was punk rock, some metal, obviously, a whole lot of disco. I'm just kidding. I burned the disco albums, except for a couple of them. I did like, who was that guy? Casey and the Sunshine Band, only because the guy was like, he was insane on the keyboards. I kind of liked him. There may have been a few others too. I don't know. In any case, you know, that it was a punk metal type of thing. Largely at that point. And of course, beyond the films, beyond going to the drive-ins, there was the comic books, the magazines. Jeez, it was just exploding, folks. You know, you had, of course, a lot of carryovers from the late 50s, 60s into the 70s. You had Famous Monsters of Filmland, magazines about films or genre films, you know, horror, science fiction. But of course, from the 60s, you had Creepy and Eerie, illustrated magazines like that, which carried through and were quite popular in the 1970s. Yeah, and of course, in the early 70s, it was suddenly, once again, after the Comics Code Authority of the mid-50s, and of course, horror comics just took a major shit, right? They just weren't worth a crap, really, until the early 1970s, when people were just like, hey, why are we following this Comics Code crap so closely? And so they just started putting out horror comics again. And I've got a few just in the mainstream sense, right? You had Marvel. With comics like Tower of Shadows. It's a great issue with the Lovecraft adaptation in it. But Tower of Shadows, there was Vault of Evil, you know, there was even, I think, Chamber of Chills, which was a direct title carryover from the pre-code era. Now, some of these Marvel comics also, you know, reprinted their Atlas pre-code comics as well, you know. So mainstream, you had Marvel doing all this. Of course, there was also Werewolf by Night and Tomb of Dracula, etc. And they kind of lasted for a few years. It didn't really go over incredibly well, not as well as DC and, of course, Swamp Thing. Now, I consider Swamp Thing to be much like, you know, very similar to Tomb of Dracula and Werewolf by Night, a kind of a horror. I don't want to call him a superhero. He's a horror character, you know. I don't know. I don't know what you'd call him, but in any case, it's Swamp Thing, right? You know, created by Stephen Bissett. Art originally by Bernie Wrightson, written by Len Wein, and freaking fantastic. This is issue number 4. And this one is, it happens to be signed by Bernie Wrightson. down there at the bottom. The monster on the moors. Stay off the moors, son. Stay off the moors if you know what's good for ye. In any case, that's Bernie Wrightson, folks, and Swamp Thing. But really, for me, in the 1970s, it was more the film-oriented magazines. CineFantastic. I've shown you issues of CINEMAGC, of course, from Starlog and Fangoria, you know, of course, which was late 70s, right? But for me, late 70s, I discovered undergrounds and illustrated magazines, like the newer ones. So these are the types of things I'm talking about. Skull Underground Horror Magazine. This is issue number 4. This is the first comic book ever devoted entirely to H.P. Lovecraft, folks. 1973, I want to say. But Skull, it took an underground comic to do it. And this is a fantastic issue. Of course, it is the cover is based upon The Hound by Lovecraft. It's got Lovecraftian stories, and it's got direct Lovecraft adaptations, as they do. And inside the comic book, they have an adaptation of The Hound, which is really quite good. So I got into this stuff. I was more into this than Marvel or DC, except for Swamp Thing, which I really got into. But I was definitely, because I was a Lovecraft fan and stuff. So once again, Skull, more Lovecraft. This has an adaptation of the Rats in the Skulls. Rats in the Skulls. Rats in the Walls by Lovecraft. More Lovecraft in this issue of Skull. All these are from the 70s. They're fantastic. They're not that expensive. You can pick them up for 10 or 20 bucks on eBay, depending on the condition. Another one, another underground, which I love, The Barn of Fear. Oh, yes, folks. Dare ye enter into the Barn of Fear. And I want to say this is circa 1977, I believe. But this is just prime freaking underground stuff. You know, they got the Scarecrow, who is much like the Crypt Keeper, you know, introducing the stories. Classic story called Let's Play Chicken. Really good art, you know. Barn of Fear. Great underground horror comic. And of course, this is when I started becoming obsessed with Richard Corbin art. Early 70s. This is the first printing of Richard Corbin's Rolf. And it would only be a few more years later, of course, originally when, let's see, yeah, 1974, right. When Warren, of course, would pick up Richard Corbin, and for example, issue number 1 of Comics International. I think all 5 issues of Comics International had Richard Corbin stuff. But this issue was all Richard Corbin in color. Absolutely stunning work. And Comics International is definitely one of my favorites from the 70s. There's several. Of course, I'm about to lay some more fabulous stuff on you. Nobody did colors like Corbin, ever. And they may never again. He had his own process. The Low Spark of High-Heeled Noise, a fantastic piece of horror from Richard Corbin. Comics International, highly recommended. The prices vary depending on the condition of and the issue number, you know. Well worth it though. Oh my God. Great stuff. I think some of Warren's greatest publishing work was Comics International. And as I mentioned before, this is, you know, a classic 70s issue of Eerie. This is the 1971 annual, which has got some great stuff in it. This is one of my favorites. Of course, it's always going to be Corbin, folks. This freaking Richard Corbin cover. This is issue number 86, right? From the 1970s. I mean, just check out the colors on that freaking thing. I mean, in the artistry to boot, but nobody did it like Corbin. And he was all over Eerie in the 70s. There ain't no doubt about that. So I was a big fan. There's no doubt. Eerie, and mostly Eerie. It was kind of a strange thing because my second oldest brother was more of a creepy fan. I was more of an Eerie fan, but I did get issues of creepy. Of course, this is the special Jaws of Death issue from Creepy. Now, this was also Corbin cover, but it also had the classic, really great Corbin tale in deep. Unfortunately, in this issue, it was in black and white. I do have it in color. But in any case, there's Creepy. Is it creepy? But what really got me, like, I think it was at the same time. This was 1976, 77, 78. You know, it was a combination of things. The first and the most revolutionary illustrated magazine of all time, because it literally made the entire scene explode. December of this. Now this is the Spanish version, so do not get this confused with the original French version, because Metal Hurlant was a French magazine. Original issue came out December of 1974, officially released to newsstands January of 1975, and it completely changed the entire landscape of science, especially science fiction and fantasy illustration, with some horror. But it was the biggie. And famously, the publisher, editor of National Lampoon, was in France, happened to catch the first couple of issues of Metal Hurlant, and said, holy shit, we've got to put out this magazine in the United States in English. And that's what they did. There is issue number 1. There we go. Issue number 1 of Heavy Metal Magazine from April of 1977. Approximately just a little over 2 years after Metal Hurlant launched. And with issue number 1, it's absolutely stunning. You got Nicolet cover. Nicolet, who did a ton of work for Metal Hurlant and Heavy Metal. And Philippe Droulet back cover. This insane. Absolutely insane. But of course, issue number 1 of Heavy Metal kicked off Den, which became probably Richard Corbin's most famous series, you know, especially the original Den. Now there was a Den 2, but yeah, with issue number 1, Den happens. Once again, this guy was absolutely the king of colors. Nobody was doing the stuff that Corbin or since. I haven't seen anything like this. So yeah, so that for me, that was a huge thing. 77, 78, 79. That was it, man. It was like, holy crap. It was something that nobody had ever seen before. Eerie and creepy in the horror sense. They were going along really well. Corbin comes in there with the Undergrounds in the late 60s and early 70s. Warren Publishing, Jim Warren is like, holy shit, this guy, Richard Corbin, is fantastic. Let's get him, to do stories on for Eerie and Creepy. And then, of course, Comics International. Then Metal Hurlant is like, oui, Richard Corbin. We put him in that magazine. Yes. And, of course, they launch Metal Hurlant. And National Lampoon launches Heavy Metal 2 years later. An incredible freaking decade for horror, science fiction, horror, and fantasy art. Probably the most momentous, the biggest decade in history for this kind of art. That's, I think, putting it mildly. Okay. That is pretty much it there, folks. So there you go. I just showed you a little bit of my stuff there, and now we're going to get back to the films. One thing I want to show, because I don't think you can really see it. I'm going to try to bring this in closely. I don't want to get too close because it's probably going to blur. Maybe that's pretty good. Can I read that? Okay, it's a button. Amazingly, I still have this button. I cannot believe it. Now, Kevin Hellon may recognize this button, but in any case, it is from the third annual. Let me get my glasses here. Third annual festival. Yeah. It's the third annual Festival of Science Fiction and Fantasy Films at the Sherman Theater in Hollywood. And so I got this button. I'm sure the third annual must have been like 78, 79, right in there, and I just held on to it. It's one of those original things that I still have. And the Sherman Theater was also a revival theater for films. Like, that was one of those where you'd get a monthly calendar, and every 3 or 4 days they would change out the films. You would have 2 or 3 films on a bill, and they were always usually like 3 science fiction films, 3 horror films, 3 fantasy, drama, whatever. But you could also have a month of nothing but science fiction movies. And they would show like 2 or 3 films every 4 days and keep switching them out the entire month. So you could go to the Sherman Theater and watch all kinds of movies, typically on 35 millimeter. Of course, this was the 1970s, folks. It was all on huge reels of 35 millimeter, occasionally 16 millimeter, but 99% of the time, I'd say it was 35 millimeter. And it was fantastic. Saw a ton of films at the Sherman Theater. It was one of my favorite cinemas. I seriously doubt it's there anymore. There are just a couple of revival theaters left out of the dozens that existed back in the 70s. And then, of course, you've got Quentin Tarantino's Beverly Cinema, which still does the same thing. It's a revival cinema. And the New Art. I think they may be the only two. I don't know. I'm not sure, but there's very few left. My good fiends. Now, here's something. We're talking about stuff in the 70s, folks. 1979, we're going to go back to Alien. Alien, 1979, right? You got to check this freaking thing out. I remember this. I never had one, right? Maybe one of you guys had one. Possible. Okay. It was a t-shirt. It was put out in 1979. I remember it clear as day because it was the Alien Chestburster t-shirt. And the alien, the little alien chestburster literally was coming out of the front of the shirt, right? And I'll show you. Oh, hold on. There we go. That's a better shot of it. So it was in 3D. So you're walking around, you'd be walking around with this thing fucking just sticking out of your chest. What a great t-shirt, you know? But I think at the time, you know, this is like 1979. I think they wanted 20 or 30 bucks for it, which was extremely expensive. Let's put it that way. And I couldn't get one, or I would have, because that is like the shit. That's the ultimate t-shirt right there. I mean, good Lord, folks, come on, man. The freaking Alien 3D shirt. I can't believe it. So you can still get it though. They for a mere $995. You too can own one of the original 1979 Alien Chestburster shirts. Okay. Crap. I should have bought like 50 of them. You know what I'm saying? It's just fantastic. I love it. I thought you might get a kick out of that. That is truly hilarious. Great idea for a shirt, too. Make it 3D. It's perfect. It's just freaking perfect, folks. All right. Enough of that levity. I swear. Let me get on over to Canopy here. There we go. Now we're nice and situated on Canopy, folks. You may notice something about the 6 films that you can see right now on Canopy. Somebody may notice something that ties them all together. In any case, let me get back to the chat before we get into this insane look at these films. Okay, I see KO Joe. Oh, I see 8-Bit Snake Boy. Hello. KO Joe's here. Hello. Steve says Underground's my favorite. I have a compilation, some random indies. Yes. Radamus, no one did call it like Corbin because he developed his own style. Yes, he had his own color separations. Yeah, nobody, even to this day, in my opinion, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, Corbin's Child is in that Comics International. Yeah, they did. They tried that whole serialization with characters. Yeah, look, they lasted they were like early to mid 60s. They had a good run to the late 70s. That was pretty much it. Maybe 1980. And I think they just lost steam, you know. The Man and the Woman and the Insects That Eat Them. Yes, that's that freaking, it's called The Long, didn't I say The Long Weekend? Long Weekend. And Radamus, yeah, it's on Canopy. My review is this: Long Weekend. When you watch the film, it'll feel like it's been a long weekend. Okay, let me put it that way. 8-Bit says, love seeing your comics and magazines. I love comic books. Great to see some classic Erie, Warren Rock. They did some great stuff. I think Comics International was one of the greatest things they ever did. Heavy Metal, Metal Hurlant, and there were only 5 issues, you know? Yes, yeah, it really was. That was when the thing really happened. It brought illustrated art from magazines into the adult world, you know? And it was a revolution. It was revolutionary. There's no doubt about that. We kind of owe a lot to the Frenchies. Oui, monsieur. You know, of course, it was Philippe Droulet, Mobius, Bernard Farkas, and that other guy, Dionne. The 4 that created Metal Hurlant. They were the ones. They did it, and Heavy Metal followed, and that was the rest of the story. And then, of course, folks, that 1981, and we've covered this before a couple of times. 1981, the Heavy Metal movie, you know, which is fantastic. The animation is just, it's a work of art. It's a work of cinematic art. I think people would agree. Philippe Droulet was insane with inks. Yeah, detail. Absolutely crazy. The Heavy Metal story. You're talking, yeah, that was Metal Hurlant originally. And that was a guy, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. And they're in suits. And they take the suits off and they're naked, but then the insects start eating them as they're boffing. I know it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Who in the chat doesn't own a copy of that movie? March 1979 is a birthday present. That's a fine present to get. Yeah, Wrightson, of course, kicked in with Heavy Metal. A lot of stuff with Wrightson and Heavy Metal. 8-Bit says, my uncle introduced me to Heavy Metal as well as Vampirella and Savage Sword of Conan. You saw me reading 2000 AD. Yes, perfect. Yeah, 2000 AD. There's another, that's one from across the pond. And there were other European magazines that kind of delved in and out of science fiction, horror, and fantasy. Before Metal Hurlant, there was Pilote, which Pilote was a magazine from the 1950s, folks. The only thing about Pilote was that it was like 80% political humor stuff for decades. And then they would occasionally have a science fiction story or a fantasy story. But it was a lot of, French commie politics. I just got to say that. I never got into it. Yeah, in any case. Wayne Butler, I love Heavy Metal. Yeah, it's great stuff. Arthur Suydam, yeah, in Heavy Metal. Wow. And, of course, they did some stuff for published in Metal Hurlant as well. Epic had an okay run. Yeah, it was all right. It's kind of like, let's put it this way. Epic was good. Man, trying to follow magazines like Metal Hurlant and Heavy Metal, that's real. That's going to be a tough little thing to do right there. You remember the button? Yeah, it's fantastic, man. The Sherman Theater. Unfreaking believable, folks. 8-Bit says, I never cared much for the superhero stuff. Give me horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. Yeah. I was pretty much the same way, Radamus. 8-Bit. I was always more into the sci-fi and horror. That was really my deal. Which is why I liked, I did like Werewolf by Night and Tomb of Dracula to a lesser degree, but I loved Swamp Thing. You know, of course, it was also had a lot to do with Bernie Wrightson and Len Wein in those early days, and then Nestor Redondo. Nestor Redondo was freaking incredible. He was the only guy that could pick up the mantle from Wrightson, as far as I'm concerned. They made the correct choice by, you know, replacing Wrightson with Redondo. Alien Press Book they gave out in the lobby. Yep. That has got it, you know. Folks, back then, you could go to like a special screening, like let's say a movie like Alien, 1979, premieres in your town, in your theater, whatever. You go in there and chances are you're going to walk out like with a free program book, you know, with photos and stuff. They did, or other kinds of stuff they would give away. This was constant throughout the 1970s. You know, there was shit. I think I still have this from, well, I think The Howling was 1980, but from The Howling, I went to the premiere, and it was a keychain with a silver bullet on it that said The Howling. And they were just giving them out in the theater, you know. That's when shit was fun. That's all I got to say. That's it. I will say no more. Say no more. Alien action figure. $9.95, they can keep it. I know. Yeah. As a matter of fact, Wayne Butler, somebody should, you know, duplicate that shirt now. That'd be rather easy to do. Swamp Thing fan. Yep. Len Wein Wrightson. Alan Moore runs. Yep. Graphic Man is here. Hello, Graphic Man. $995 for a t-shirt. That shipping better be free. Let's take a look, shall we? It is. It's free USPS ground advantage. Woohoo! I'm going to put in a best offer of $2. $2, Squala. Dave Jane says, I attended the very first Toronto Star Trek convention back in 76. That would be, yes. And it was around that time, Dave Janes, that I also attended I don't know exactly what it was, but it may have been the first major Star Trek convention in Los Angeles. It was 77, 78, maybe right in there. And William Shatner was the guest of honor. I mean, there was like, they said there were over 10,000 people, which was huge, especially for a first off Star Trek convention, you know, in the 70s. Crazy stuff. But I also went to WhoCon 1, which was the first Doctor Who convention in Los Angeles. And of course, this was once again late 70s, and Tom Baker was the guest of honor. That was hilarious. I own Suspiria and Inferno and Mother of Tears. Excellent, Wayne Butler. Yes, indeed they did. Left-Handed Jedi is here. I managed to get a copy of Texarkana graphic novel, a great read. And it was a serial in heavy metal, right? Yeah, Radamus, Arthur Suidam is still quite alive. That dude he was doing stuff for Metal Hurlong. Man, he was doing stuff before heavy metal came out. It's incredible. And even at that time, folks, we're talking pushing 50 years ago. That guy kicked butt. He was like a fantastic artist 50 years ago, doing stuff for Metal Hurlant and heavy metal. Ghost Rider, Frankenstein's Monster Man Thing, of course. There you go. All right, folks. Yeah, you're looking at it right now. You know what we're getting into now. Once again, for people that aren't aware, okay, the one thing that ties all of these images together is Dario Argento. All of these are Argento films. Now, 3 of these films are from the 1970s. 3 of these films are from the 1980s. But I thought I would put them all together tonight just to show you what Canopy can do for you to give you your ultimate Argento fix. Okay, Canopy.com works with the public library system. If your library plays nice with Canopy, which typically most libraries are connected with Canopy, you simply input your library card into Canopy, your library card number, then you're in. Then every month you get 24 tickets. Now, I think all of these movies that we're looking at right here are 2 tickets. So you can watch 12 uncut, commercial-free films on Canopy every month, including all of these from Dario Argento. I highly recommend it. It is Canopy.com, folks. You've got to check it out. Look, times are thin. Let's put it that way. And that's the way I look at it. It's like, you got to do what you can do. And one of those things for me is, I've gone beyond the subscription crap. I've gone through years of that, and that's it. That's all she wrote with that. Suspiria, folks. One of Argento's masterpieces. This is one of the 3 Mothers films. There was Suspiria, Inferno, and the last film, Mother of Tears. In any case, and these are all supernatural. Now, he didn't always do supernatural films. He did a lot of giallo horror films. But as it says here, a newcomer to a fancy ballet academy gradually comes to realize that the school is a front for something far more sinister and supernatural amidst a series of grisly murders. Suspiria is Italian horror master Dario Argento's best known and most acclaimed film. There we go. And okay, this is a film that I had a little bit of a problem with the music copyright issue. Now, the soundtrack on Suspiria is fantastic. It's by an Italian group called Goblin that composed a lot of soundtracks for a lot of movies back in the 70s and 80s, including Suspiria, Deep Red, which we're going to take a look at, George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. That is Goblin soundtrack. But unfortunately, when I did the video intro on this and I put it up on YouTube, they got me initially for a copyright claim. So I had to go in and pull a sneaky Pete, folks. A sneaky little Pete on their ass. And I changed the soundtrack a bit for the trailer. And I made my own trailer with a different soundtrack. I hope you like it. Here we go.
Welcome to our academy. I'm Stana, one of the instructors.
There we go. Hopefully I didn't get screwed on that sucker. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's still going. We're still alive. You never know. You just never know, folks. And by the way, yeah, that's one thing too. I just want to make it. I'm going to remove this for a second, just so people in the chat know what's going on and what has been going on, at least for the last few months. This channel, the Horror Mike channel, has gone to at least 80% film-oriented content. Okay, 20% film, ephemera, magazines, comic books now. It has totally changed, in other words, folks. That's what's going on. So it's going to be rare when you see me showing comics or magazines. Let me put it that way, because it is more of a film-intensive channel at this point. So I just want to get that out there in the open and straight up. So there you go. All right, folks. Next up, we have another one of my favorite. Look, I love all of these Argento films. There's no doubt about it. This is Deep Red or Profondo Rosso from 1975. And it is a horror, what I call horror giallo. It is not supernatural. The giallo horror, like a horror crime, I guess, for lack of a better word. This also has one kick-ass Goblin soundtrack. But what a movie. You guys, if you have not seen Deep Red, I cannot recommend this highly enough. David Hemmings is in this film. He was very popular in the 60s and 70s. He was in Antonioni's Blow Up, which is fantastic if you ever get a chance to see that great film. But he's in this. He stars in this film. As it says, one night, musician Marcus Daly, looking up from the street below, witnesses the brutal axe murder of a woman in her apartment. Racing to the scene, Marcus just manages to miss the perpetrator. Or does he? As he takes on the role of amateur sleuth, Marcus finds himself ensnared in a bizarre web of murder and mystery where nothing is what it seems. Profondo Rosso, Deep Red, Dario Argento. And of course, I've got this. This is the soundtrack as it is supposed to be. Okay, folks. This is a little trailer for Deep Red. Check this out.
I can feel death in this room. A presence. You have killed, and you will kill again.
The murderer is a schizophrenic paranoid. Anyone who kills with such frenzy surely does it in a state of temporary madness. And when he kills, he must recreate these specific conditions.
What was that? I saw a man in a brown raincoat walking away from the building.
What are you doing messing around with this business anyway? I told you to stay out of it.
What is it?
Didn't you hear that?
There's somebody in the house, absolutely trying to kill me. If you hadn't stuck your damn nose in it all.
What I saw was a reflection in a mirror. I saw the face of the murderer.
Absolutely fantastic. So, folks, if you haven't seen any of these films, most of these films that you're looking at right here are not on Tubi in the first place. And if they are on Tubi, you're going to watch commercials. These are all uncut, commercial free on Canopy. Just watch them. No commercials. What a concept. And they're all great. They're all, you could watch all 6 of them back to back and perhaps become as insane as one of the characters in Argento's movies. Inferno. Now, this is the second film in the Three Mothers series. Now, we're getting back to supernatural. This one does happen to be 1980. As I said, there's 3 80s films, and there's 3 70s films here. Tenebrae, which is fantastic, with James Francisco. He is just, I'm sorry, James Francisco, Jesus Christ. Whoo, Tony Franciosa. I don't know. It's all of those Italian sounding names. This is classic Argento from 1982. Highly recommended once again. Bird with the Crystal Plumage is 1970. And it is great. I love this film. It is earlier Argento Giallo. Once again, not a supernatural theme, but really cool. Really freaking cool film. Starring Tony Musante. Absolutely fantastic. 1970. And you may recognize Jennifer Connelly. Oh, yeah. A very young, I think that she's 16 years old in this freaking movie, folks. It's phenomenal. From 1985, once again, getting into the 80s, but it's really quite good. Donald Pleasance is in this film, Jennifer Connelly. It takes on a more of a, well, I don't know what the hell you really call it. I mean, that she's got a connection with insects. It's really strange. And there is a killer on the loose. Yeah, it's a weird film. It's a weird like Argento, huh? Not Dario Argento. But in any case, that is one hell of a 6-pack of horror right there, folks. All on Canopy, just waiting for you to sign up. That's it. You sign up for free, watch the movies. There's a ton of freaking movies on Canopy. I cannot recommend it strongly enough. So there you go. That's our look at Canopy. That is our look at the Canopy. We're going to go back to the Tubi right now. Okay? I'm going to talk about like Argento throughout the entire program. Let's get back to the comments before we launch into what is likely to be a small riot of chat proportions. Let's take a look here, folks. I don't even know where the hell. Okay, I see Suspiria, music by Goblin. Indeed, Suspiria is an absolute classic. You're totally right. Watched Suspiria for the first time last week. Really enjoyed it a lot. Looked like Argento puked up a box of crayons on the screen, the colors. Yeah, he was the guy. Argento invented stuff, folks. What he did with the Luma crane camera movement is absolutely, well, he was the first. He was the guy. I would put it this way, and you know it if you watch a few Argento films, especially from the 70s. Watch a couple of that was the guy, man. Our American director. One of these, just along the same lines. Dressed to Kill. That guy. Fuck. Now I suddenly cannot remember his freaking name. Somebody's got to know it. De Palma, thank you. Freaka Boogie, thank you. It's De Palma. Brian De Palma. Compare Brian De Palma and Argento. You will find striking similarities. Not that either of them ripped each other off, but in the same period of time, both of them were doing things that nobody else was doing in cinema. They revolutionized the way a camera could move, lighting, colors, direction, everything, especially in horror. You could call, if you look at De Palma's films like Dress to Kill or Body Double, you could call those American giallo films. Totally. They're just, it's right up there, you know? So in any case, I just thought I would say that for some reason. We got Midnight Geek is here. Hello, Midnight Geek. Dave James watching. Oh, okay, we saw that. For some reason, I missed Midnight Geek. Remake of Suspiria is awful. Yes. Get it out. Cast it out. Cast it out. Eric likes the soundtrack I made. Well, you should hear the soundtrack. The Goblin. I mean, it is Goblin. It's just that I had to chop it up so that hopefully it doesn't pick up on the copyright thing. We'll see what happens. Yeah, our absolute master. Cinematic master, along with Brian De Palma. They're I think two of the greatest visual artists ever in cinema. There's no doubt, man. The 70s and 80s, they ruled. They ruled the 70s and 80s, in my opinion. They were the ones. And there were a lot of great ones. I mean, look, Francis Ford Coppola, for Christ's sake, David Lynch, and they also were way up there. I'm not, I'm not sliding them at all. But there was something about Argento and De Palma in the world of cinema that nobody else could touch, Canopy. A little bit of comics. As I said, 80% movies now, folks. And a little bit of comics. Freaka Boogie says, hello, Freaka Boogie. Some pretty wild, brutal deaths in Deep Red. Yes, there are. Oh, my God. Yes, indeed. As there are a few brutal deaths in Suspiria as well. Argento does use a lot of his family, of course. His wife and his daughter, Asia. Demons and Demons 2. Yes, Demons is on Tubi. I like it. I like it a lot. Good old Demons. Yes, I will. Look, I've seen. I got to say, I have not watched the entire film because I watched like about 5 minutes of it, and that was enough. Yep, both of them on Canopy, folks. Tenebrae is freaking awesome. Tony Franciosa as the writer. It's so good. It's just so freaking good. Yeah, Jennifer Connelly. Phenomenal. Barbarella. Yeah, that's right. That's right. He's in that. Pre-Labyrinth. I don't know. I'm not sure. Phenomena. Doody. Yep. That is the soundtrack. Oh, my God. Yes, that is it. Your library card, and you got it. Alita Battle Angel, right. Oh, yeah, Body Double is fantastic. It is grade A De Palma. And he directed the original Carrie. He also did one of my favorite early 70s films, Phantom of the Paradise, which is freaking awesome. And, of course, much later, Snake Eyes with Nicolas Cage, which I really, really dig the hell out of. He's done a ton of freaking movies, man. And really great films. There ain't no doubt about it. God, man. And a couple of not so great, but you can't win them all, folks. You can't win them all. And we're just about to find that out on Tubi as we enter the world, the finale, the 70s finale here. And Tubi has added a couple. As a matter of fact, they just added a couple of films yesterday. that are now on this list. I added them. I kind of rearranged some stuff because you're going to want to know that they're there. I don't know if you're going to want to do anything about it, but you're going to want to know about it. I'm absolutely certain of that. First off, a delightful film. Horror of the Zombies, as many may know it, it's the Ghost Galleon. Yes, it is one of the 3 or 4 films they made about the Knights Templar, as they say here, the living corpses of the devil-worshipping Knights Templar. What? They weren't devil worshipping in the first place, and they didn't worship some weird frog god. That was in the last one, the Night of the Seagulls, where they worshiped this frog god and they sacrificed women to the frog god. I'm like, okay, where the hell are they getting this from the Knights Templar, man? But in any case, they hunt for victims stranded at sea and seeking refuge in a 16th century Spanish galleon. Now, there's a couple of great things about this film. I've seen it a couple of times, I must say. And I like the creatures. Now, once it, I have a strange affinity for these slow-moving, skeletal zombie Knights Templar creatures. Okay. Maybe it's because of the hot babes that they're menacing on board this ship. I don't know. But I do like this film. And strangely enough, it is also on Tubi as Ghost Galleon. If you look up Ghost Galleon, it's the same damn film. They've got it under its 2 titles, Horror of the Zombies and Ghost Galleon. And folks, I've got a little trailer for Horror of the Zombies. This is a short, it's like less than a minute, so, but it's pretty cool.
They rise at night and can't be stopped. They're the walking dead who were never buried, and they're coming your way now in Horror of the Zombies. They live on flesh and subsist on blood. They're hundreds of years old and look decayed. It's all new chills and a shocking and ghastly nightmare of gruesome terror. When pretty young girls go on a pleasure trip alone, they don't realize it will be their last trip into the world of the living zombies in Horror of the Zombies. In blood-drenched color, won't you join them? Horror of the Zombies. Rated R from Independent International.
Lovely. A lovely little trailer. And as you can see, yes, you know, when you've got a 16th century galleon loaded with hotties that are being menaced by these Knights Templar skeletal zombie things, okay, you've got some entertainment. There is some entertainment value there, folks. And for that reason, I recommend Horror of the Zombies. There's no doubt about it. It's, you know, I've seen much worse on Tubi. There is no doubt. Next up, Blood-Sucking Freaks. Now, this film was also banned in a few different countries. It is one weird freaking movie. As they say here, they list it as a horror comedy from 1976. And here's how it runs. In New York's Theater of the Macabre, Sardou and his assistants present a show inflicting real torture, mutilation, and death upon unwilling subjects. And yeah, it's just all messed up, folks. The one thing about Blood-Sucking Freaks is this. Yes, it's got some rather graphic scenes, but the graphic gore is on a level, as far as I'm concerned, it's like Herschel Gordon Lewis. So you're going to see a lot of red paint. Let's put it that way. Okay. Check out this trailer, though. It is rather funny.
We have a little entertainment planned for you today. I am Sadu, master of the theater of the macabre. Tonight, we begin with torture. Again, I warn you that if you find what you see is a little upsetting to your stomach, then just pretend we're play acting. Or if you are skeptical or bored, then just pretend that what you see is real.
Nothing you can say or do would revolt me.
Now, are you planning to cut short your dancing career?
I will dance!
Oh, she will dance!
Oh, hold shit. Yeah, there we go. All right. Yeah, so there you go, folks. That's a little blood-sucking freaks for you. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Look, there is a lot of TNA. It's a lot of 1970s babes dancing around naked, and they're kind of insane, which is interesting. But as you saw, those kind of brief bits of gore there, it's Herschel Gordon Lewis level stuff, you know, so that's what you're going to get with blood-sucking freaks. Moving on. Now we're starting this phase of the Tubi presentation I like to call hilarious titles for not so great movies. And we begin that this series with I Dismember Mama. I dismember Mama like you dismember Mama. Yes, it's I Dismember Mama, folks. That queasy little chiller from 1972. After being institutionalized for an attempt on his mother's life, a mentally unwell young man escapes and goes after his mother once again. Yeah. And as I said, yeah, the best thing about this film is the title. I do like the poster too. That's a nice bit of key art right there for I Dismember Mama. But check out the next three here, folks. Check out the next three. Yes, the next one is the story of a menage a trois that turned out very badly. It's called Three on a Meat Hook. And this is one, oh God, from 1975. As it says, when their car breaks down on an isolated road, four women wind up spending their last night in the farmhouse of a widowed man and his troubled son. Three on a meat hook, folks. Yeah, okay, look. It's got TNA. There's no doubt about that. It does pay off. Most of these films pay off in that department. You know, there's the nudity, there's kind of the sexual situations, and a bit of gore with varying degrees of success. Like, as I just said, with blood-sucking freaks, the gore is ridiculous. You know, it looks very much like Herschel Gordon Lewis type of stuff. But, yeah, Three on a Meat Hook, there are, like, scenes in it that are interesting. And then there's just long stretches where it is plotting as hell. Let's put it that way. You know, have your remote with the fast forward handy. And just to give you an idea, think about watching a film, like a 90-minute film, right? That's like this trailer.
A picture you won't ever forget, because it touches the full spectrum of the bizarre, the forbidden, the twilight areas of a life destined to be spent in shadow and agony. The screen may never again relate to this subject matter. It will certainly never again approach this treatment. Oh, you know all about them, huh? You don't even know their names. Now get them out of here.
Look, Paul, why don't you just go on to bed or something? I promised to have them out of here first thing in the morning. But I'm not taking them back on that road this time of night.
Billy, I don't want to be unreasonable, but you know what happens to you when you get around women. And it must never happen again.
It ain't gonna happen, Paul. I'm gonna go fix them something to eat, and then I'll show them to the rooms.
A child's world robbed of joy by a secret conspiracy of suspicion and fear, dwelling like a lodger in the mind, insinuating its presence into every heartbeat, holding a black light to the dreams of childhood, forcing the will into blind canyons of loneliness and despair, a stolen life, pawned to a godless oblivion. The only ones left to mourn, the last witnesses to the execution, suspended in time by a puppeteer with blood on his hands. Little broken dolls that go on dancing after the music has stopped.
Hey, okay, just shut up. Jesus Christ. What day is it? Is there anybody left in the chat? Good Lord. There's 3 on a meat hook, folks. View at your own peril. Okay, it's on Tubi. The next one we have now, I gotta say, I have not seen this film. Okay, Violent Bloodbath, which was apparently the more successful sequel to Peaceful Bloodbath. Okay. Violent Bloodbath. I mean, you gotta, it's got something going. That title's got something going for it. A district attorney is disturbed when several horrific murders, all identical to cases he's tried and convicted in the past, begin occurring. It's Violent Bloodbath. I love that poster, though. Some nice key art right there. Unlike 3 on a meat hook, I don't even know what the hell that's like the most lame poster I have ever seen in my life for a movie. What the hell is that? Now, Violent Bloodbath, that's tasty. That's got there's some art going on there. As well as Hatchet for the Honeymoon, another one of the series of hilarious titles for films. It's Hatchet for a Honeymoon, which I have seen. And it is from 1970. As it says, a cleaver-wielding bridal designer murders various young brides-to-be in an attempt to unlock a repressed childhood trauma. Yes, it is Mario Bava. This is the saving grace of the film, Hatchet for the Honeymoon, folks. It's Mario Bava. So look, pretty much any Mario Bava film is going to be definitely worth seeing at least once. Some of his films are worth seeing many times over. There's a lot of Bava fans. I like several Bava films, but with this one, once again, I like the title most of all, Hatchet for the Honeymoon. Come on. And that poster is kind of nice too. I do like that. It's not as good as Violent Bloodbath, but it's all right. It's all right. Let's go to the chat, shall we, and see what people have had to say about these fine works of art that we've taken a look at here. Freako Boogie says, oh my God, Phantom of the Paradise is so good. Very funny too. Yes, I totally agree, Freaka Boogie. It is definitely great early De Palma fantastic, amazing. The one thing that really astounds me about Phantom of the Paradise 2 is that it's a Paul Williams soundtrack. Paul Williams did a lot of cheesy, like top 40 love songs during the 70s and 80s. Okay. For some, I don't know what happened exactly, but Phantom of the Paradise is just a freaking great piece of work. It's got everything. I mean, it's just got great rock and roll. It's from the 50s through the 70s, really great sound, great lyrics, works with the film beautifully. And of course, Paul Williams is in the film. It is, of course, a modernization of Phantom of the Opera. And it's De Palma. It's another great De Palma film. There's no doubt about that. I love Phantom of the Paradise. I used to have that sucker on vinyl. That was another one I had on vinyl. Freak-a-boogie. 8-Bit says, who writes these movie blurbs on Tubi? I don't know, but I'd like to get paid to do it. Yes, Left-Handed Jedi. And we were talking about this when we covered the first one, Night of the Seagulls, because it shows the frog god in the movie. If you watch Night of the Seagulls, that's something that, you see the quote unquote Knights Templar in the early days. They're worshiping this frog fish demon god statue. And I was like, okay, well, this is very Lovecraftian. So I was kind of attracted to that whole aspect. They don't explain jack shit about it. That's the whole thing. It just exists. And these skeleton Knights Templars have to go out in modern day, of course, and get women and continue to sacrifice them to this frog fish creature. And it's very much, it's kind of like, it has that feeling, especially with Night of the Seagulls, of Shadow over Innsmouth and Dagon. Totally. But nothing is explained. You don't even know why. Where did this frog god come from? Why are the Knights Templar worshiping it? It's just goofy as hell. I hate that when they do that. They just never really explain anything. So that's the problem. With Ghost Galleon, though, aka Horror of the Zombies, you don't have to worry about that, because it's just a bunch of those suckers on a ship menacing hot babes. And I can deal with that. I can totally deal with that. Ghost Galleon is the third movie in the Blind Dead series. The fourth movie is The Night of Seagulls. I swear to God, Wayne Butler, why didn't they bother to explain anything in the fourth film? I just don't get it, man. Curse of the Blind Dead. I don't even know if I've seen that. Pleasure Trip of the Zombie. Hey, Mike, I added these films to my Tubi account just now. Horror of the Zombies, yes. Yay, look, you will not be disappointed with Horror of the Zombies. Babes menaced on a Spanish galleon by slow-moving zombie skeletoid Knights Templar. I don't know what the hell they are. They look cool, though. They actually look really cool. And the babes are really hot. That's it. Wizard of Gore, good old Hoyshel Gordon Lewis. Psycho from Texas. I just checked. I have blood-sucking that could be a sequel. Blood-sucking creeps. Blood-sucking freaks on my hard drive. Well, it's on Tubi as well, folks. 3 on a Meat Hook. Is that the cousin of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Of course, everybody was trying to imitate Texas Chainsaw. Killing, they all want to kill hot women. Apex, that's the classic thing. For screaming her ass off. Well, that's why it wasn't very popular, Apex. But the joke is, why would you film? What could it possibly be? What could a bloodbath possibly be other than violent? Okay. Could it be like, hey, laid back bloodbath, man? Like groovy bloodbath? No. Obviously, it's violent. Good Lord. Okay. 8-Bit says, I'm a big Mario Bava fan, but I'll admit I was introduced to him with Planet of the Vampires. I love Planet of the Vampires a lot. Danger Diabolique, yeah, that is freaking great too. Diabolic, whatever the hell. Radamus, damn, it looks like they pulled Deep Red off of Tubi. Whoa. Well, it's on Canopy, Radamus. It's on Canopy, uncut and commercial free. 1968. Wait until we get into the 60s, folks. What a freaking decade for movies. All right, folks. We move on. Oh, yeah. We're moving on up to the east side as we explore the magic of Frankenstein 80. Yeah. I bet you've never seen this one, have you? From 1972, early 70s film. An inspector investigates the case of a mad scientist who creates a monster that breaks out of the laboratory to hunt down and kill beautiful women. Once again, strangely, that's always seems to be the modus operandi. And of course, well, for this particular film, Frankenstein 80, I naturally have to have a freaking trailer. And here we have it. There you go, folks. That was a bit of Frankenstein 80. A time in the early 70s when they wanted to make a trailer, they were just like, okay, look, take a lot of scenes that look, at least pretty decent and put a soundtrack over it. Now, that's it. That's your trailer. Next up, we have one of my favorite titles tonight in this whole damn list. The Horrible Sexy Vampire. Oh, God, yeah. And it does pay off in spades, folks, in that regard. There is plenty of TNA to be had in this 1971 horror flick, The Horrible Sexy Vampire. As it says, when an inhuman being begins murdering people, a doctor becomes convinced that it's the work of a reclusive baron who died many years ago. We can only guess what kind of creature that baron is. And he must naturally stalk the hottest babes in this particular film. I've got a very short trailer for you, folks. Check this out. What? Yeah, there's something about that trailer, folks. I don't know what it is, but, as you can see, yes, the film pays off in certain respects. Now, it may be a plodding pile of shite, but you're going to get some decent TNA value with the horrible, sexy vampire. Next up, this is a film that I think they just dropped it on Tubi yesterday. So I had to put it in here, folks. I had to put it in here. Cannibal Girls. The picture with the warning bell. When it rings, close your eyes if you're squeamish. These girls do exactly what you think they do. Cannibal Girls. But the funniest damn thing about this film? 1972 film, folks. It's a horror comedy, apparently. I didn't find that much comedic value out of the film. But it stars Eugene Levy and Andrea Martin. This is pre-SCTV. This is years before SCTV. And Eugene Levy and Andrea Martin are in this freaking Canadian horror, as they call it, Canadian horror spoof. I didn't see much spoofing going on, okay? And once again, I thought it was rather dull for the most part, with the exception of some amazing-looking cannibal girls who are indeed cannibal girls. And they'll do anything to get men into their little bed and breakfast in order to eat them. That's basically what's going on. As it says, Eugene Levy and Andrea Martin star in this Canadian horror spoof as a couple on a romantic holiday who settle into a quaint little bed and breakfast run by a trio of flesh-eating ladies who fancy them for tomorrow's menu. Now, as I understand it, this film was made for the budget of $9,000 in 1972. It is directed by Ivan Reitman. Now, that name may be familiar to you. Ivan Reitman went on to direct such films as Ghostbusters. Yes, that's right. He also produced Heavy Metal, the film, the 1981 film. He did some great stuff, folks. This isn't one of them, okay? But there is some really, really great TNA in this film. And look, I love SCTV. I'm a huge SCTV fan. Eugene Levy, Andrea Martin, they are young in this freaking film. I'm talking, I don't know, they're 20, early 20s, 21, 20. I don't know. They're young. Let's put it that way. And they are the stars of this particular film. Okay, Cannibal Girls. So it's on Tubi if you want to check it out. Look, if you're an SCTV fan, it might be worth it for you to check this film out to see some very early Eugene Levy and Andrea Martin hijinks. But yeah, that's it, folks. It's it's Cannibal Girls. Now we're getting into something here. We're getting close, folks. Yep. As you can see, we start the fourth row with the incredible two-headed transplant. Good Lord. I can't believe this. They just added this on Tubi yesterday, folks. It's on Tubi now. The 1971 sci-fi horror flick starring Bruce Dern as Dr. Gerard, a mad scientist who dares to combine two heads onto one body despite serious consequences. Yes. I wonder what those consequences could possibly be. But in any case, it stars Bruce Dern, Pat Priest, and Casey Kasem. America's Top 40. It's America's Top 40, folks. Directed by Anthony Lanza. That is the incredible two-headed transplant now on Tubi. The one thing I really dig the shit out of about it is this poster. Let's see if I can, maybe I can get it even larger. Nope. That's about as large as it gets right there, folks. With the two-headed brute carrying out off the scantily clad woman. As it says, this brain wants to love. This brain wants to kill. Two heads grafted on the body of a giant, the most fearsome living force ever created by man. It's the incredible two-headed transplant. Next up, folks, I've been waiting for it personally. From a vast and distant galaxy, a space adventure for all time. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, folks. There we go. Bring it back down to Earth here. It is Star Crash with Carolyn Monroe as Stella Starcrash. And, I mean, I don't know what to say, but yeehaw! 1979, a pair of smugglers are recruited by the Emperor to rescue his missing son while they track down a mysterious superweapon designed by an evil count. Marjoe Gortner, Carolyn Monroe, Christopher Plummer, believe it or not, directed by Luigi Cozzi. Hey, I need to make me sci-fi movie with the Carolyn Monroe. I'm making this movie Stella Starcrash. And that is Luigi Cozzi's claim to fame. Folks, it is Star Crash. And look, it's got certain plus, there are pluses to this film. There ain't no doubt about that. And they're typically about, a nice D cup type of attribute going on here. But look, I didn't get the trailer. I didn't put the trailer in here because it sucked, really. The one that I watched. But I do have this tasty scene that we're going to watch and love again. Check this out. This is when Stella gets accosted by those space Amazons. It's just one of my favorite scenes in the whole damn film.
Now, put her into the mind probe.
No! No!
Hold it right there!
Elle!
Release her or I'll blast your queen. I mean it. Come on now. Don't you people move or you're dead. You mean to treble and I'm gonna clean out your sinuses real good, lady. Now you stand there. Okay, close the door. Don't you follow us now.
Stop them! Stop them! Guardian, take my revenge. Kill them.
Whoa! Run for your life! There! That narrow path is in the rocks. Come on, Stella! Run!
Okay, well, they didn't get Ray Harryhausen to do the animation, but hey, at least they had some stop-motion animation in the film. And more importantly, they had those hot space Amazons and Carolyn Monroe as Stella Starcrash. Now, you got to admit, that's the kind of scene that's kind of going to wake you up in the morning. Okay, that's what I'm talking about right there with Starcrash. Next film, folks, I have no freaking idea. It's called Dark August. I don't know if anybody in the chat has seen this film, but it is from 1976. It says horror mystery thriller. And it also says, in this gem of a chiller, dark forces of witchcraft and psychic phenomena taunt a new resident in a small rustic town after a fateful car accident. I don't know. I'm going to watch it, though, because it does kind of look rather intriguing. Dark August. I've never heard of it. I've definitely never seen it. It is on Tubi. Tubi just they have a knack for getting a lot of very off the wall films that could be described as kind of rare, you know, as far as being online goes. But this one looks kind of cool, you know. We shall see, because I'm going to watch that. All right, folks, let's get back to the chat and see what people have to say about tonight's Tubi lineup. There we go. Radama says Frankenstein 80 is wearing a cool leather trench coat. Yes, he was stylish. Frankie 1980 in that film. The Horrible Sexy Vampire, that's one hell of a title. It is. It kind of almost commands you to see it. You know what I'm saying? And as I said, yes, there's certain redeeming qualities about it, and that is in the form of some rather nice 70s TNA. Okay. Horrible. Everybody's got to see it. I think that's the winning combo right there. That's right up there with the horny undead. What's with the tropical birds for background noise? Very distracting. Yeah, I have no idea. That was quite an interesting trailer. Ghostbusters director Ivan Reitman. Yep. That was Cannibal Girls, or whatever the hell that is. Cannibal Girls. Ivan Reitman, the very one. The director of Ghostbusters and producer of Heavy Metal and a ton of other movies. Cannibal women. Yes, they eat meat. 8-Bit says Stripes was my go-to before Ghostbusters. There you go. And that was also, of course, Ivan Reitman. This is early, of course, Cannibal Women, folks, is early Reitman. I'm going to pull that down here. Just so, Cannibal Girls, yeah. So, yeah, it was a $9,000 film. You shouldn't expect that much, and you're not going to get it. Let me put it that way, except for some amazing occasional TNA. And not from Andrea Martin, by the way, from only the 3 Cannibal Girls. Casey Kasem in that film, yes, The Incredible Two-Headed Transplant. And it is now on Tubi, folks, believe it or not. They did. Yeah, there was the one with Ray Milland. I forget what the hell that was called. Rosie Greer and Ray Milland, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he was one of the 2 heads, Dave James. That would have been funny, though. Can't you see I love you? And now let's listen to the top 10 hit by the whatever the fuck. I don't know. 8-Bit says, I adore Star Crash. It's the Garth Marenghi's dark place of sci-fi movies, even if it didn't realize it. Yes. Oh, I love Garth Marenghi. That is freaking awesome. Folks, if you want a good laugh, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place is on YouTube. I think all of the episodes are on YouTube. Look it up. It is hilarious. Some of those guys are from another show too. I forget how the hell that worked, but in any case, it's funny as hell. Rosie Greer and Ray Milland. Yeah, what the hell was that called? Maybe it was The Amazing Two-Headed Transplant. I swear to God, it was something like that. Amazons on Horseback. Carolyn Monroe and Space Amazons, every 70s teen boy's wet dream. Yes. There ain't no doubt about it. And that's a huge part of what made Star Crash so great. There are 2 pluses. Oh, yes, in Star Crash, no doubt. Pat Priest was Marilyn from the Munsters. And she's in the incredible two-headed transplant, folks. Let me see. Let me take a look at something real quick. Real quick, like, folks. I just want to see if, oh my God. Oh, The Thing with Two Heads. That was the Rosie Greer film. All right. Hold on. Let's watch the trailer. Let's check out the trailer for the incredible two-headed transplant. There we go. I just got to see this. Maybe Pat Priest is in it and Casey Kasem, so we'll know what the hell's going on. Holy Toledo. Casey Kasem should have been one of those heads. You're absolutely right. No doubt about that. Good Lord. Oh, my God. That is just unreal. There it is, folks. There's the trailer for the incredible two-headed transplant. Pat Priest looking really good in that film, by the way. She was looking pretty hot. I don't know how they wrangled Bruce Dern, Casey Kasem, and Pat Priest into this particular film, but they did. And there you go. That was the incredible two-headed transplant trailer. Good Lord. Apid says, I can say I was a child of the 70s. Thomas says, women such as Carolyn Monroe and Jennifer Connelly were so lovely, they took your breath away. Where have all the beautiful women gone? Yeah, I don't know. But the 70s and 80s were really this, like, maybe the greatest time for hot babes in cinema. And, it's just one of those things. I don't know, man. It was just that period of time. It was absolutely insane for just drop dead gorgeous women in film. That's that. What can be said? Dave Jane says, is that Kim Planet of the Apes Hunter in Dark August? It could be. Oopsie. Let's go back. Let's go down here. Kim Hunter. Maybe it is. Could be. I have not seen that film, Dave James. It is on my list, though. I'll probably watch it this weekend. See what's going on with it. $9,000 to make a movie, yeah. Back in 1972, that would not be too bad. The Thing with Two Heads, yes. Beautiful and Dead. John Candy, Eugene Levy's The Two-Headed Buffoon. Two-headed transplant. How did the porn industry miss out on making a parody for this one? It's a sure sign of age. Okay. It is? Okay. All right, folks. Well, there you go. There you have it. We've just capped our 1970s look at films and assorted paraphernalia or ephemera or whatever the hell. I hope you enjoyed this look into one of my favorite decades. But fear not, because next week we do start into the 60s. 60s has got a lot of great stuff I totally forgot about. As I've been kind of looking into especially into the film side of it. It was quite a decade for cinema, and pretty much kind of a launching a platform to launch, that major explosion into the 70s. But indeed, they had a lot of really great films of their own, and we're going to be looking at quite a few of them. Now, yeah, the 60s is not going to be as extensive. I imagine it's going to be a two-parter, I believe. We'll see how that goes, but there's a ton of great stuff on Tubi with the, dealing with 60s films. It's quite nice indeed. So in any case, I hope you enjoyed this little look into the 1970s, and maybe you came away with a few films that you might want to check out. If you haven't seen any Argento, I strongly recommend Canopy. It's free, folks. Uncut, no commercials. Wayne says, thanks for the show. You're very welcome, Wayne. Good to have you here. The 70s were such a wealth of riches as far as horror went. Wow. Yes, absolutely. It was an incredible decade. And I would, the 70s and 80s, just absolutely fantastic for horror films and science fiction. There was definitely a nice amount of science fiction films, especially in the 1970s. Radama says, can anyone to explain to me why so many horror films in the 70s, there were so many horror films? Did it have something to do with Vietnam? Well, yeah, certainly. Yeah, that was definitely one of the things. That was a, reality horror unto itself. And Tom Savini even talks about that. There's a documentary, at least one documentary where he's interviewed, and he was in Vietnam. So that was one thing. And I think Tobe Hooper talks about that as well. These, young filmmakers it was just coming out of the Vietnam age, 72 and 73, and all of the horror. And it just spilled out into the screen, Yes, well, that kind of happened. I mean, although there was always something that would totally blow your mind and surprise you, even in the 80s. And it's something like, like even 1985 with something like Return of the Living Dead was just totally, I don't think anybody was ready for that, right? I mean, it just, something else entirely. Another fantastic show worth staying up late for. Great memories and discussion. Definitely a great way to cap off a busy work week. Always great to be here live. Thank you, 8-Bit. It's great to see you here as well, my good Matt. Check out the documentary Drive-In Madness. Yes, I think that is on Tubi as well. Excellent, folks. Well, we've come to another end of a show, which means one thing, and one thing only. And that is Linda by the Starfires. And I hope that everyone has a great weekend. Next week, we dive into the horrifying 60s. Oh, yes. It's going to be quite nice indeed. So, everybody have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon.